Welcome to R&R Livin' Life. We begin this episode as we leave Halifax and continue on to Lucinda before making our way to Taylor's Beach and Forest Beach. From there we make our way back to the Bruce Highway to enjoy pancakes at the Frosty Mango before continuing on to Townsville. Our first port of call at Lucinda was the Dungeness Viewing Tower at the mouth of the Herbert River, directly opposite the southern tip of Hinchinbrook Island. Rick and I walked down to the 1.5 kilometre long sandy narrow beach where the tide was in. Across the channel we could see the pristine natural wilderness of Hinchinbrook Island. There was only a thin stretch of sand, but we did enjoy the water as it lapped the shoreline. We then climbed to the top of the Dungeness viewing platform that gave us a clear view of the southern end of Hinchinbrook Island. The island is dominated by a mountainous backbone featuring several peaks comprising two distinct rock types. The main mass, centred on Mount Bowen at 1,142 metres, consists of granite, while the mass projecting northwest includes Mount Pitt at 722 metres and Mount Burnett at 655 metres, consists of silica volcanics. The granite of the main mountain mass has weathered to spectacular, often jagged peaks. So you can imagine why the island is renowned for its range of habitats, including misty heath-covered mountains, sandy beaches, paper bark and palm wetlands, and extensive woodlands with patches of lush rainforest and eucalypt forests that descend to the mangrove-fringed channel in the west. There are sweeping bays and rocky headlands along the east coast, but we could not see them from the tower. The island's mangrove forests are some of the richest and most varied in Australia and are an important breeding ground for many marine animals. Near the bottom of the observation tower, we were lucky enough to see a small flock of red-tailed black cockatoos feasting on native seeds. They had been regularly monitored in the coastal environments and woodland fringes surrounding Lucinda. These specialised seed eaters use their powerful, heavy bills to crush hard woody fruits, nuts and cones, and have distinctive scarlet panels on the tail, at least on the males. From the observation tower we made our way into Lucinda, backed by 3 kilometres of deep natural mangrove-covered tidal flats. Lucinda is almost an island unto itself, with its long sandy coastline and stunning scenery. Rick and I only touched a small portion of what Lucinda had to offer. We parked beside the Borello Park, situated in the heart of Lucinda, and sat amongst shady rain trees, with direct access to the stunning Lucinda Beach and views of the Lucinda Jetty. The Lucinda region was originally known as Dungeness, serving as the main harbour for the Herbert River district sugar industry. However, its shifting sandbanks prompted CSR to build a sugar tramway from its Victoria sugar mill to Lucinda Point in 1896, where the government had contracted the Rooney brothers to build a storage shed and jetty, as the existing harbour at Dungeness was not regarded as viable. Before 1958, raw sugar from the Herbert River mills was transported in sacks via tramway to Lucinda Point, where it was loaded onto lighters or small vessels that then carried the cargo to larger ships anchored in the deeper waters of the Hinchinbrook Channel. A bulk terminal was established in 1958 to replace the lightering system. However, the increasing size of international cargo vessels by the mid-1970s meant the existing berth could no longer accommodate modern shipping requirements. In 1979, the Lucinda Bulk Sugar Terminal was constructed, along with the service jetty, comprising 108 spans, supported by over 660 concrete and steel piles, driven deep into the seabed, bypassing the shallow coastal flats, and built to withstand cyclones and heavy seas. At nearly 6 kilometres in length, it is nothing short of an engineering masterpiece, with its length actually following the curved contour of the earth as it stretches far out into the Coral Sea. On leaving Lucinda, we made our way back through Halifax to Taylor's Beach, a quiet beachside community centrally located between Forest Beach and Lucinda. Though the beach area was referred to as Taylor's Beach back in the early 1900s, the township itself was formerly known as Cassidy and was renamed Taylor's Beach in October 1969. The town has had a long history of threats from natural events, including cyclones, floods, and local heavy rain events. Being situated at the mouth of Victoria Creek, an ancient flow path of the Herbert River, and during large floods the Herbert River often breaks its banks just south of Halifax, sending large amounts of floodwater down through Victoria Creek, causing isolation for the residents when local roads become cut. Bounded by the Coral Sea on the east, the locality is divided into a northern-southern section by the estuary, where Victoria Creek flows into the Coral Sea, with Pelorus and Orpheus Islands just off the coast. The southern section has a long, narrow spit, providing shelter to the beaches of the northern section. At low tide, soldier crabs mill across the mudflats. In the 1950s, it became apparent to some of the residents that erosion was occurring on a regular basis along the Victoria Creek shoreline, so a ridge of sand was constructed to divert the tide and protect the shoreline, with mangroves planted to provide stability. As the mangroves grew, they were trimmed with long-handled cane knives into what became known as the mangrove hedge. During World War II, the beach was also used by military aircraft to practice beach landings. Several sea mines also washed ashore during the war, one of which was detonated to destroy it, leaving shrapnel across the beach. Sugarcane farming is the cornerstone of the Herbert River District, which produces around 15% of Australia's raw sugar. The Herbert River sugar industry has a rich history that dates back to the early 1870s, when the first plantations were established near Ingham. The industry faced numerous challenges, including pests, disease, fluctuating sugar prices, and extreme weather events. Local growers operate over highly fertile, rain-fed floodplains, with harvesting and crushing taking place from June to December. Both Rick and I chatted about the extensive beef grazing happening in the area, with tick and heat-resistant tropical breeds, notably Brahman and composite crossbreeds, grazing on typical tropical savanna pastures. Stocking rates or carrying capacity seem to have been governed by the distinct land types in the region, and we could see where rotational grazing and climate-responsive destocking was happening. Some areas had been fenced off, protecting and stabilising historically impacted grazing zones and lagoons. As we made our way to Forest Beach, Ingham, it was interesting seeing the various agricultural practices of the area. The name Forest Beach is derived from George Brownrigg Forrest, who was the manager of the Victoria Mill near Ingham, while Christopher Allingham was one of the first European pastoral settlers in the district. Forest Beach is known for its 14 kilometres of sandy coastline and stunning views of Orpheus and the Palm Island group, the traditional home of the Manbara people, who were connected to each other and the mainland through trade, language and creation stories. In the mid to late 1900s, the island had a very checkered past, as it was used as a government reserve and penal settlement for displaced Indigenous Australians until government controls began lifting in the 1970s, leading to the creation of the first local council in 1974 and the transfer of land rights in 1986. Lady Elliot Reef lies close to the coast, about 5 kilometres north of Forest Beach. With such stunning views and scenery, I was beginning to like the idea of camping alongside some of the beaches we had seen so far during this trip. They were stunning, But not being a swimmer or into fishing, I really don't know how I would spend my time. After enjoying such breathtaking scenery, we made our way back to Ingham and the Bruce Highway, then on through the small rural community of Tubana, surrounded by lush, generally flat, low-lying sugarcane fields and agricultural land around 10 metres above sea level. The land is highly developed, with sugarcane tramways and infrastructure designed to haul raw cane directly to major regional mills like Victoria Mill. Local practices heavily focus on minimum tillage and green manure fallow cropping to keep the soils productive, but being in close proximity to the Great Barrier Reef, farmers need to strictly limit fertiliser runoff into waterways. Coastal and inland pastures utilise managed cell grazing systems to raise beef cattle. Historical properties like Mangala Station on Forest Beach Road seamlessly combines beef operations with cultural and agro-tourism. Beyond sugar, some farms diversify into tropical fruits, sweet potatoes, squash, pumpkins, cucumbers, melons and gourds, and high-yield forage options like banana grass. Positioned near Treeborn Creek and Cattle Creek, the low-lying flat terrain leaves farmers highly prone to extreme monsoonal flooding, with major flood events posing severe risks to newly planted and ratoon cane crops. We were now making our way to the Frosty Mango at Mentani, nestled in the foothills of the Paluma Range. I had been looking forward to pancakes and mango ice cream since we had passed on our way up. We were not disappointed. They were delicious. Established in 1989 to offer fresh, locally sourced tropical fruit treats that are sun-ripened and harvested directly from their 550 trees out the back of the Frosty Mango. Rick and I enjoyed our treat in the relaxing air-conditioned oasis. It is not a place to miss. Once we had treated ourselves to pancakes, we continued on our journey south with around 70 kilometres to go to Townsville. Rick and I have been to Townsville on a number of occasions and really enjoyed the view from Castle Hill, a massive pink granite monolith rising 286 metres above the centre of Townsville. Just metres short of being a mountain, Castle Hill offers us 360-degree panoramic views of the city, the coastline and Magnetic Island. Apart from being an iconic centrepiece of the city and a lookout for spectacular scenic views, Castle Hill has a significant history, used by visiting American soldiers during World War II as a lookout point, with an observation bunker located on one corner of the hill. After parking in the car park, several scenic walking trails branch out directly from the upper car park. Rick and I climbed the stairs that took us along the Pillbox Walk, a return 175-metre walk with views of the Coral Sea, Cleveland Bay, Queen's Gardens, the Strand, Magnetic Island, Cape Paloranda, the CBD and South Townsville. We then wandered along the Summit Walk, a return 180-metre walk to Heine's Lookout overlooking North Ward, the Townsville Common, Melton Terrace and the Port of Townsville. Once back at the car park, we then did the Radar Hill Walk, a return 235-metre circuit that overlooks Ross River, Ross Creek, the railway estate and yards, while further around we could make out Mount Louisa, Kerwin, the western suburbs, Harvey's Range and the Country Bank Stadium. Apart from the wind, it was stunning. I seem to have named just about every major part of Townsville, but the panoramic view was incredible. Rick and I stood and watched as a ferry made its way across Cleveland Bay, part of the Coral Sea, to Magnetic Island. Both Rick and I have been to Magnetic Island many years ago and thoroughly enjoyed our time spent over there. Maybe it was time to revisit. Famous for its wild koalas, 23 sandy beaches, wild rock wallabies and World War II history, It is one of the most accessible yet naturally preserved islands on the Great Barrier Reef. Years ago, our boys enjoyed their visit to the Reef HQ Aquarium, formerly the world's largest living coral reef aquarium, but it is currently closed and under redevelopment and on track to open in 2029. The city is also a major industrial centre, home to one of the world's largest zinc refineries, a nickel refinery and many other similar activities. The port of Townsville is also being expanded, with channel widening and installation of a huge crane to allow much larger cargo and passenger ships to utilise the port. It is an increasingly important port due to its proximity to Asia and major trading partners such as China. Townsville hosts a significant number of governmental, community and major business administrative offices for the northern half of the state. Dominant sectors of its diverse economy include defence, administration, health and education, manufacturing, energy, transport and logistics. The city is a national hub for renewable energy in green hydrogen and polysilicon. It is also Australia's fortress city, home of a large part of the strategic capacity of the ADF, offering essential services including maintenance and supply chains, including one of the largest military bases in Australia, as well as a RAF base that can accommodate most military aircraft in service. Townsville is primarily located on the Ross River, a 49-kilometre long waterway that flows from the Harvey Range through the city and empties into Cleveland Bay, and is the city's main source of drinking water from Lake Ross. We were now about halfway home from the tip of Cape York, having covered over 1,350 kilometres, and with about the same distance still to travel. No dirt roads that I know of, just bitumen from here, unless there were some unexpected side trips in the mix. It has been years since we have travelled the Bruce Highway south, so we're looking forward to seeing just how much it has changed and checking out a lot of those small rural communities tucked away off the highway, as well as some of the larger towns like Bowen, Mackay and Rockhampton. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Give us a thumbs up if you have, and leave a comment. Join us next episode as we continue south along the Bruce Highway as it passes through areas close to the eastern coastline of Queensland, including the twin rural towns of Ayr and Home Hill, and then on to Gumbloo before arriving in Bowen. Cheers for this episode. Enjoy life. Savour every moment. Rick and Rosemary. R&R Live and Life.